It's a new webisode. It's Sunday morning. I haven't quite woken up yet, so lucky you. In my office and working on tomorrow's show before I do church stuff with the boys and then watch the last race of the season. So went out to Manzanita BMX, the racetrack off of Nebraska and Mission, Irvington area. I'm trying to see if I want to get the boys into BMX racing. I raced BMX bikes for years when I was a kid, starting when I was 11 years old. I quit about when I was 19. I hyperextended my knee, was out for a handful of months and tried to get back into it and never quite recovered. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. I guess my only point was that it was a lot of fun. The boys look like they're going to get into it, so now I have to go out and get bikes. Earlier in the day, as we navigated out of the Northwest side because of the L Tour to Tucson race going on, we ended up going by Wells Fargo. I had to take care of some banking stuff inside the bank. It was stemming from this. I got this in the mail, and I didn't even realize it. Have you heard of Federal Reserve Board Regulation D? I hadn't, but that's what you get for not reading all the fine print when you open up a bank account. But apparently, Federal Reserve Board Regulation D limits on the number of certain types of withdrawal transactions that can be made from a savings account each month. A month is generally defined, blah, 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 blah. To comply with Regulation D, the bank monitors savings accounts for these transactions and contact you when limits are exceeded. You can only do 6 of these types of transactions in a month from your savings account. Transfer funds out of your savings account via the phone. Do the same thing via online banking, including bill pay. So you can't pay bills via your savings account. Now, granted, just remember, this doesn't cost the bank anything when you do these transfers. Automatic transfer of funds withdrawals out of a savings account for overdraft protection. Pre-authorized transfers and withdrawals from your account. Checks, drafts, similar other withdrawals to a third party. Debit or ATM point of sale purchases that post to the savings account. Now, if you do it via an ATM machine or inside a Wells Fargo, that's perfectly fine. There are no limits with Regulation D. So, if you do this, now if you end up doing more than 6 transactions off of your savings account, the bank will ding you for $10. But it's a federal mandate, right? When asked, and of course I knew what the answer was, but when I asked them, why did they do this? They say, well, it's a savings account. And you shouldn't be moving any money out of your savings. You should be saving money. That's why it's a savings account. Now, again, I asked him, it costs the bank no money at all for you to move money from one account to another online. It's not. It's just moving numbers around. Why is it the bank's business what I do with my money and where I move it? For example, you might be wondering why I'm just realizing this now. Because I had put a huge chunk of money into savings for a Disneyland trip coming up, sort of as a down payment on that trip. And periodically throughout the past few months, I've had to move money out of savings into checking just because of holiday expenditures, buying gifts, and just, paying bills and that kind of stuff. And that's why I did it for that reason. I said, well, if I have this chunk of money here, if I need to move some out, that's okay. I'll put some back in. What business is it of the government to say, no, you can only do so many per month? It's one of those, and I asked the guy at the bank, I'm sorry, it really ticked me off. I asked the guy at the bank, when did this start? And he's like, well, it's been this way back since the 30s. And I'm like, well, okay, that's not true because most of this applies to online banking. So I'm sure it's been around for a while and I've just never realized it. But it's one of those circumstances where I go, how much are people paying attention? When you look at the recent regulatory reforms that went into place, credit card companies and things like that, how many people were actually paying attention to what was in there? How many people in Washington, in Congress, were actually paying attention to what was in there? Because this is ridiculous. I mean, it really is. The government has no business at all, no business at all, saying how many transactions I can do with my money. And sadly, it's every single bank. I mean, every bank has to comply with it. Kind of reminds me of what I said before on the show, where could you imagine if there wasn't Social Security right now and somebody was trying to push Social Security reform? Can you imagine if you didn't have to pay into Social Security at all right now, and somebody was on the stump going, we really need to make sure that we are providing for everybody and that you're okay for the future, so we're going to take so many hundreds of dollars out of your paycheck and put it into a savings account for you so that when you reach a certain age, you can get to it. There's no way it would happen. That's why entitlement programs are so difficult to remove, because right now it'd be really difficult to remove Social Security. Yeah, I want every dollar of my paycheck. I want to make sure that people that paid into it get all their money first. We'll just cut them all a check. All right, just be aware. Unbelievable. Somebody made a comment though that if I do a credit union, I don't have to deal with it, so I might have to look into that. So, all right, thanks for watching. Short week. Rock on for the short week. I could use the time off for Turkey Day. All right, bye.